Good morning for another daily coffee from Rotterdam, the host city of the Eurovision Song Contest 2021. We have seen the first half of the second semi-final yesterday, and I'm going to talk about what these nations have shown us with Erik Bolks from OJE and Steef van Gorkum from ESC Daily. I guess you will join me every morning, right?
That's the plan.
Erik, how's the coffee here in the Netherlands? It's a stupid question, but we do it every year, so...
Well, I like my cappuccino and we drink it hot.
What were your thoughts about yesterday? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
An impressive act by Greece. That's the first thing that springs to mind. And I was pleasantly surprised by Serbia, being not too slutty, but very professional actually. So that's the first things that spring to mind.
Yeah, let's talk about Serbia. They closed the day of yesterday, but we're gonna walk through the entire day. But Serbia indeed stood out during their rehearsal. Also, Steef, when it comes to the vocals of the women.
Yes, and this is actually something that I called to you sometime.
It's true. It's true.
Sometime before the contest, because these women, even though in this act, in this song, and also in last song, they present themselves as. Well, I mean, Erik mentioned the word slutty a little bit, as a sensual act and as a more out there act right now. They all have had solo careers in which they sang much more serious songs, in which they sang ballads, and in which they displayed good vocals. So they still have that, even though they completely changed genre. So, and I think that's going to be a strong point for them because it's something that you don't expect with an act like this.
Yeah, Erik, in the live blog you compared it to the Russian act of 2007.
Yeah, it's a very impressive trio. They have stage presence, charisma, and it's a very upbeat song. So it immediately had the resemblance with that to me. And also the coloring was the same, like black and a little red. And no, I thought it was fantastic.
That was the end of the day with the Serbian rehearsal, of course, way at the start of yesterday. It already feels like ages ago. We had Zenit from San Marino. No Florida yet. But at the press conference, Steve, we were both there attending. And we both had the feeling, the way she answered the questions about that famous rapper, he's going to be here, I think.
I think so. Basically what she said was, when you're reading a book, you don't read the last page first, right? So she was building the suspense. Why would you build the suspense if he's not coming? I mean, there could be some conspiracy theories, people thinking that they want to try the suspense for nothing just to keep the buzz going. But then I think the disappointment would be even bigger all the way in the end. And also I think that it wouldn't really matter because in the end, there's only a small group of people following this build-up, and the large group of people are following the show on the big Saturday night, or on Wednesday and Thursday first, of course, for San Marino.
Erik, how big of a deal is it when we look at whether Florida will be here or not? Will it actually impact the final result of San Marino?
Well, it won't impact the quality of the song. It stays the same, but it might impact on the televote because Florida has a lot of followers. But if there's the same audience that watches Eurovision, I'm not sure about that. So I think in a televote it might make a difference, but quality-wise, no.
After San Marino, we have Estonia and then the Czech Republic, of course. What can you say about their first rehearsal, Steve?
I mean, Estonia, for me, just based on the song and the performance, has never been a big candidate for qualification. I thought their rehearsal yesterday was very resemblant of Victor Kone. They're trying to replicate that success of him reaching the final. I don't think they will do it again. So, Czech Republic coming after that. I personally like that song, but I thought, at least at the rehearsal yesterday, it was missing that vibe or that charisma that I think Benny Cristo has, but he wasn't showing it yesterday.
He was holding back a lot. Didn't give his full 100%. And sometimes you see big artists, they do that, but usually in the last run through. They give their 100% and then on with the show. He also didn't do that. He did it in neither of his run-throughs. What does that say to you, Erik?
That it might happen in the second rehearsal round. So he's not giving away anything yet.
What's your opinion about it?
I would just go it all the way in the beginning, just to give a first impression. You only have one chance, So I would have done that. Just show once you have it, and then the other times you can just play your choreography and how the camera works. But I would have done it differently.
Is it an issue, Steve, or am I making it bigger than it is?
Well, I mean, first impressions do matter because there's also there's journalists watching, there's bookmakers watching, and some kind of vibe does matter. Although, like I just said, most of the people will see it for the first time on the big night. But also for their delegation, I guess, because these rehearsals are not just for him to go through the motions, but also for them to gather shots and to see what works and what doesn't work. And they were trying to gather shots because they did the ending at the catwalk in 3 different ways. But if all those 3 ways are him being a little bit, whoa, we're doing it like this, then those shots don't mean as much because you don't see what it will actually look like when he goes full throttle. So I don't see the point in him holding back that much.
Greece comes up after the Czech Republic, and you already mentioned at the start of this podcast, Eric, Greece was one of your highlights of the day. Can you explain why?
Because visually it was complete. They have this trick they do with the clothing of the dancers, so you see half of it and half you don't see, because they have the green trousers, green sweaters. Vocally it was very much okay, and there were a lot of nice close-ups of Stefania looking into the camera and flirting, so overall positive things.
It's especially very good because she's still so young, but does this in such a professional manner at her first rehearsal. It's impressive.
I was very impressed by that, and I know her from Junior Eurovision when she was part of the Dutch group Kisses, and I interviewed her back then. I already thought that she was very out there, very funny and upbeat girl. But I was worried that all that energy. You have to have some kind of focus too when you're on the Eurovision stage. But then I saw it yesterday, and all my worries were gone immediately because she looked very focused, very sharp, and on point at every movement. I was impressed.
Austria and Poland are the next 2 nations that we saw having their first rehearsal with Amen and The Ride. Do you see them having a chance at qualification, Eric, at this stage?
At this stage, not at all. The vocals of Ravel were really bad. And Victor Bueno, he was really trying, but there was too much nerves on his voice. And actually in the act, nothing is happening. So I was trying to capture the act, and then there was only 2 phrases I could write down of what I saw. So nothing is happening, so nothing will last in the minds of people. So why should you vote?
Yeah, I had the feeling they thought about like the first minute of the song. He's standing in the dark with some but later on there's not much happening in the Austrian act.
No, there isn't, and they're clearly going with the same mindset that Belgium is going in, like trying to present it in such a credible way that juries might go for it. Then again, I think Belgium succeeded better at that. I think juries will give Austria some credibility, but it might really bomb with televotes, and I'm not even sure that the jury vote will be good enough for him to be in the mix for qualification.
The fun part of yesterday then started after these more serious entries. We had Moldova, Iceland and Serbia. Well, we already talked a lot about Serbia, but there's much to say about Moldova and Iceland, of course. Let's start with the Kirkorov entry, Sugar. I expected personally to kind of a vulgar performance in a positive way, but that was not the case. They kept it very decent, and it's working out pretty well.
Yes, and I would not call this one non-serious, because it's really serious what they're trying to do, and it reminded me of Shady Lady. Well, of course, that's a Kirkorov production as well. That song just sticks to the mind a little bit better than this one, but the performance was really nice and on spot. Vocals were not really full throttle as most singers do now, but I see it doing well in the final.
How far can it come in the competition, the Moldovan entry, Steve?
Right now I have it on a list of countries that might scrape top 10. doesn't mean that I necessarily think it will be in the top 10, but it's in the mix for that. And as you said, it's because of the fact that they kept it also credible. I would use the same word again, but of course it's a completely different song than Austria, but they kept it somehow credible for juries not to immediately dismiss it when they see it.
Iceland is the last nation we saw yesterday we haven't spoke about yet. Of course, they were one of the main contenders of last year, the cancelled contest. They are not such a big candidate for victory when it comes to what bookmakers say this year, and that hasn't changed after their first rehearsal. They still have them around the 6th place when it comes in the winning odds. Indeed, not a contender for victory, Iceland, in your eyes, Erik?
I would say power to the nerds, but not to the victory. No, it's very nice entry. It's a happy tune. It's nice to watch. It looks a bit clumsy in a funny way, and that's exactly what they meant to reach. And they have this video game kind of style, and it looks appealing. It's nice. It's friendly, but it's not a winner.
Can it be, Steef, that in the community we already know them? We know the way they present themselves. We know the impact their song of last year has had, but many of the millions of viewers next week won't have that background in their mind. Could they still interpret it the way that we all did last year? May it do much better than the community thinks?
There's an argument for this to be going in both directions. On the one hand, you can say, people are overestimating it maybe now because we know it and we know the story and we relate to it. And for people who see it for the first time, it may be a little bit weird still and strange, and they won't relate to it as much. And you can go the other way in saying, well, we've already seen it, so we grew tired of their act. But for people who see it for the first time, it's still new and refreshing. I'm still torn between those two. But what I did notice was that I think the group itself also grew a little bit accustomed to the attention, and they were not as new and naive, in a good way naive, as they were last year when they really were the nerds who on stage who seemed like they were just grabbed from a small village in Iceland and just dumped there. And so they lost a little bit of that newness, which I think might translate. That's the way I'm leaning right now. It might translate to the larger audience who sees them for the first time, but who doesn't get the same first impression that we got when we saw them for the first time.
So Iceland was the talk of the town last year, of course, when it came to the winner market of Eurovision. Today, we see two countries taking the stage for the first time, who are doing very well in the odds of actually winning this contest. Of course, Switzerland with Jan Stiers is in there, Bulgaria with Victoria. I think I can speak for the both of you. Those two nations are the ones to watch today.
Yes, they are, and for me, the staging for both is actually quite important because we've seen video clips, we've seen some live performances, but they're not anywhere near resemblant to the Eurovision stage. So we don't have a national final performance that captures us and that, for example, like in Lithuania, gives us a clear idea of how it's going to look like on stage. And that is important because for Jan Stiers, he's probably going to be alone on stage, maybe behind a piano. Can he then emotionally connect with the viewers? Very important for him. And then for Bulgaria, that song, even though I think on the radio it's less powerful as the song that she had last year, it may be a perfect song to stage. You know, it could be very cinematographic almostly, and I want to see that. But I'm not quite sure what to expect, so I'm very much looking forward to that rehearsal.
You too?
Well, if you look at semi 1, all the ballots will fail, I guess. And in this semi, in the first half, the ballots will fail as well. So these are the ones to watch because they're the only ballots left almost. And I think these are the better songs in the contest. So if they reach the final, they're almost the only ballots in the final.
Which could give them a huge chance, and yeah.
That's my point, yes.
Okay, enjoy your day. Thanks for listening to this podcast. You can follow all the rehearsals of today, of course, in our live blog on this website, on our website, escdaily.com. And next morning we will talk about all the things that happened today in Rotterdam. See you soon.